They say you never truly know the person sleeping beside you. I used to laugh at that notion. I used to think I knew everything about Brooks. Every scar, every secret, every shadow in his heart. But on that ordinary Tuesday afternoon, when I walked through our front door 30 minutes earlier than usual, I learned the most terrifying truth of my life. The man I loved was a complete stranger. And the stranger he was talking to on the phone? She knew him better than I ever did. But here's what no one tells you about betrayal. It's never just one lie. It's 1,000 tiny deceits stacked on top of each other, building a tower so high you can't see the top. And when it finally falls, it buries you alive. I'm Cynthia Morrison. No, wait, I'm Cynthia Reed now. Or am I? After everything that happened, I don't even know if my marriage was real enough to claim his name. What I do know is this. The moment I heard my husband sobbing in our kitchen, whispering those 6 words into his phone, my entire world shattered into pieces so small I'll never find them all. I can't lie to her anymore. Those words changed everything. But not in the way you think. Nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for what came next. The office had been suffocating that day. My supervisor, Janet, had been breathing down my neck about the quarterly reports, and the fluorescent lights were giving me a migraine that felt like nails being hammered into my skull. At 2:30 p.m. I decided I'd had enough. I grabbed my purse, muttered something about a doctor's appointment, and left. The autumn air hit my face as I stepped outside, crisp and clean, washing away the stale office atmosphere. October in Portland had always been my favorite time of year. The trees along our street were ablaze with colors. Deep crimsons, burnt oranges, golden yellows. Brooks and I had moved into our little craftsman house 3 years ago, right after the wedding. It was our dream home with its blue-gray siding and white trim, the porch swing where we'd spent countless evenings planning our future. Our future. God, how naive I'd been. I pulled into the driveway at 2:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I glanced at the dashboard clock, thinking how nice it would be to surprise Brooks. He worked from home as a software developer, usually holed up in his office until I got back around 6. We could have an early dinner, maybe watch a movie, reconnect the way we used to before life got so busy. The moment I opened the front door, I knew something was wrong. The house felt different. The air was thick, heavy with something I couldn't name. And then I heard it, a sound that made my blood turn cold. He was crying. Not quiet sniffling, but deep, wrenching sobs that seemed to tear themselves from someone's chest. Brooks. My husband was crying. I froze in the entryway, my keys still in my hand. Brooks didn't cry. In 7 years together, I'd seen him tear up maybe twice. Once at his father's funeral and once during our wedding vows. But this wasn't tearing up. This was the sound of a man breaking apart. I moved silently through the living room, my heart hammering against my ribs. The sound was coming from the kitchen. Each step felt like walking through water, slow and dreamlike. Part of me wanted to run to him, to comfort him. But another part, some primal instinct, told me to stay quiet, to listen. As I reached the doorway, I saw him. Brooks was sitting at our kitchen table, his back to me, his shoulders shaking. His phone was pressed to his ear. The afternoon light streaming through the window caught the tears on his face, making them glitter like broken glass. "I know," he said, his voice cracking. "I know, baby. I'm so sorry. Baby." The word hit me like a physical blow. I'd never heard him use that tone before, so tender, so raw, so intimate. Not even with me. "I can't do this anymore," he continued, running his hand through his dark hair the way he did when he was stressed. "It's killing me. Every day coming home to her, pretending everything's normal. I can't lie to her anymore." The floor beneath me seemed to dissolve. The walls started closing in. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't move. "I love you too much," Brooks whispered. "I need to tell her the truth. She deserves to know." My hand flew to my mouth, stifling the gasp that threatened to escape. Tears burned my eyes, blurring my vision. This couldn't be happening. Not to us. Not to me and Brooks. "I'll do it tonight," he said. "I promise. After dinner I'll tell her everything. About us. About the baby. The baby." The words echoed in my head like a death sentence. There was a baby. My husband had gotten another woman pregnant. I don't remember backing away from the kitchen. I don't remember leaving the house or getting into my car. The next thing I knew, I was parked 3 blocks away, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white, screaming until my throat was raw. 7 years. 7 years of loving him, trusting him, building a life with him. And all of it was a lie. But I couldn't fall apart. Not yet. Because if Brooks was planning to tell me tonight, that meant I had a few hours to figure out what the hell I was going to do. I wiped my tears, pulled out my phone, and did what any betrayed wife would do in 2023. I started gathering evidence. Thank you for stopping by to watch Cynthia's journey through betrayal, heartbreak, and hard-won justice. If you believe that trust is the foundation of every relationship and that truth, no matter how painful, is always better than comfortable lies, please subscribe. Your support helps us share more stories of resilience, self-worth, and the strength it takes to demand honesty in a world full of deception. Enjoy listening. I didn't go back home. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop downtown, ordered a black coffee I wouldn't drink, and sat in the corner booth with my laptop. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. First, I checked our bank accounts. Brooks handled most of our finances. He was better with numbers, he'd said. I'd been happy to let him take charge. What a fool I'd been. The joint checking account looked normal. But when I dug deeper into his personal account, the one he'd had before we got married, my stomach dropped. Regular transfers. $2,000 every month for the past 8 months to a name I didn't recognize. Violet Ashford. $16,000. He'd given another woman $16,000. I typed the name into Facebook with trembling fingers. The profile was private, but the profile picture was visible. She was beautiful, long auburn hair, green eyes, a smile that probably made men weak in the knees. Her cover photo showed her at a beach somewhere, laughing, looking carefree and young. So young. She couldn't have been more than 25. I was 34. Apparently, I was already being traded in for a newer model. I checked Instagram next. Her account was public. Thank God for small mercies. I scrolled through photos of her life. Pictures of coffee cups and sunsets. Inspirational quotes about new beginnings. And then from 3 weeks ago, a photo that made my blood freeze. It was a pair of tiny baby shoes. White with yellow ducks on them. The caption read, "Can't wait to meet you, little one." The comments were full of congratulations. Friends asking if she'd chosen a name yet, if she knew the gender when she was due. But nowhere did anyone mention the father. I kept scrolling, going back months. And that's when I saw it. A photo from 11 months ago. Violet at a restaurant I recognized, Giuseppe's, the Italian place Brooks and I loved. But she wasn't alone. The photo was cropped, but I could see part of a man's hand reaching across the table, holding hers. The watch on his wrist was distinctive. A vintage Omega with a leather strap. Brooks's watch. The one I'd given him for his birthday 2 years ago. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. When I came back, I forced myself to keep looking. I screenshotted everything. The photos, the comments, the timeline. I documented the money transfers. I even checked our credit cards and found receipts for places I'd never been, dinners for two I'd never eaten, hotel rooms I'd never slept in. Every piece of evidence was another knife in my heart. But I kept going. Because I needed to know. I needed to see the full picture of his betrayal before I decided how to burn his world to the ground. Then I found something that didn't make sense. Among Violet's Instagram photos was one from 6 months ago. She was with an older woman in what looked like a hospital room. The woman was thin, frail, with a scarf wrapped around her head. The caption read, "Staying strong for you, Mama. We'll beat this together." I clicked on the comments. Friends sending prayers, hoping the chemo would work, asking how her mother was holding up. Cancer. I sat back, confused. Was Brooks helping her pay for her mother's treatment? Was that where the money was going? But that didn't explain the baby. It didn't explain him calling her baby, or saying he loved her. I was not going to make excuses for him. I was not going to find reasons to justify this betrayal. Whatever was happening, he'd lied to me. He'd hidden this woman from me. He'd been planning to confess tonight, which meant he knew it was wrong. I checked the time. 5:15 p.m. I needed to go home to act normal, to hear whatever confession he'd prepared. But I couldn't do it. Not yet. I needed a plan first. I called the one person I knew would help me, no questions asked. Cynthia. My sister Emma's voice was warm and familiar. "What's wrong?" The moment I heard her concern, I broke. The whole story poured out of me in gasps and sobs. The crying, the phone call, the baby, the money, the other woman. Everything. "That son of a bitch," Emma hissed. "I'm coming over right now." "No." I said, wiping my eyes. I need you to help me, but not like that. I need to be smart about this. I need to know everything before I confront him. What do you need? Can you watch his phone records? You still work for that telecom company, right? Emma was quiet for a moment. Cynthia, I could get fired for that. Please. I need to know who he's been talking to. How long this has been going on. Another pause. Then, give me his number. While Emma worked her magic, I drove around aimlessly trying to process everything. My mind kept replaying the scene in the kitchen. The way he'd sounded so broken, so desperate. The way he'd said he couldn't lie anymore. Part of me, the stupid still in love part, wondered if maybe there was an explanation. Maybe Violet was just a friend. Maybe the baby wasn't his. Maybe I'd misunderstood everything. But I hadn't misunderstood. I love you. I hadn't misunderstood. I can't lie to her anymore. My phone rang. Emma. You're not going to like this, she said. Tell me. He's been calling and texting her number every day for the past 10 months. Multiple times a day. Sometimes for hours. 10 months. While I was working late, while I was planning our anniversary dinner, while I was talking about maybe starting to try for a baby of our own, he was already making one with someone else. There's more, Emma continued. There's another number he calls frequently. A Dr. Rebecca Wu. I looked her up. She's an oncologist at Oregon Health. That confirmed it. Violet's mother was sick. But why was Brooks calling her doctor? When's his next call scheduled with her? I asked. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. An idea began to form in my mind. A terrible, risky, potentially brilliant idea. Emma, I need you to do something else for me. I pulled into the driveway at 6:30 p.m., my usual time. I'd reapplied my makeup, fixed my hair, practiced my normal smile in the rearview mirror. I needed to act like everything was fine. Like I didn't know my marriage was ending. Brooks met me at the door, and the guilt on his face almost broke my resolve. His eyes were red-rimmed, his smile forced. Hey, sweetheart, he said, kissing my cheek. The same way he'd done 1,000 times before. But now it felt like a lie. Everything felt like a lie. Hey, I replied, keeping my voice steady. You okay? You look tired. Just a long day. Work stuff. Another lie. How many had there been? We made dinner together like we always did. Brooks chopped vegetables while I seasoned the chicken. We talked about my day, about Janet, and the quarterly reports about the weather. Normal conversation. Comfortable. Familiar. And completely hollow. I watched him during dinner, really looked at him. Brooks was handsome, I'd always thought so. Tall, lean, with kind brown eyes and a smile that crinkled at the corners. He'd been my best friend before he became my husband. We'd met at a tech conference where I was working the registration desk. He'd made a joke about my name tag being upside down, and I'd laughed, and somehow that had led to coffee, then dinner, then 7 years of my life. Had any of it been real? Cynthia, he said suddenly, setting down his fork. We need to talk. Here it was. The confession. I steeled myself. There's something I need to tell you, he continued, his voice shaking. Something I should have told you a long time ago. I looked at him, waiting. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to throw my wine in his face, to demand answers. But I stayed silent. He took a deep breath. I've been helping someone. A woman. Her name is Violet. A woman, I repeated flatly. It's not, God, this is going to sound so bad. He ran his hand through his hair. She's young, 26, and she's pregnant, and her mother is dying of cancer, and she has no one else. And you thought you'd step in and play hero? He flinched at the bitterness in my voice. I know how it looks. Do you? Because it looks like you've been having an affair. Looks like you got another woman pregnant. It looks like you've been lying to me for months. What? No. Cynthia, no, it's not like that at all. Then what is it like, Brooks? Explain it to me. Explain why you're sending her thousands of dollars. Explain why you're calling her baby, and telling her you love her. Explain the baby. His face went pale. How do you? I came home early today, I said, my voice cold. I heard you on the phone. I heard everything. Brooks stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Cynthia, please let me explain. The baby. Is it yours? No. God, no. I would never cheat on you. Then whose is it? He looked at me with such anguish that for a moment, I almost believed him. Almost. Mine, he whispered. I stood up, my legs shaking. You just said. Not mine like that. Mine like. Cynthia, Violet is my daughter. The world stopped spinning. You're what? My daughter. From before I met you. I didn't know about her until 10 months ago. Her mother, a woman I dated briefly when I was 22, she never told me. She raised Violet alone. And now she's dying and Violet found me and she's pregnant and scared Anne. I sat down heavily. My mind was racing, trying to recalibrate everything I'd thought I knew. You have a daughter, I said slowly. Yes. And you didn't tell me. I know. I'm so sorry. I didn't know how. At first, I wasn't even sure if it was true. So I got a paternity test, and when it came back positive, I was in shock. And then I met her and she told me about her mom, about the pregnancy, and it was all so overwhelming. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. So you just sent her money? Met with her behind my back? Lied to me for 10 months. I was trying to help her. She's my daughter, Cynthia. She needed me. And what about me? Did you think about what I needed? Did you think about how I'd feel being shut out of this huge part of your life? Tears were streaming down his face now. I was scared. Scared you'd be angry, scared you'd leave, scared everything would fall apart. But keeping it secret was worse. That's why I decided to tell you tonight. I can't keep lying. I stared at him, trying to process this. He had a daughter. Not a mistress. A daughter. Everything I'd thought was wrong. The affair, the betrayal, it was all a misunderstanding. Except it wasn't. Because even if he hadn't cheated, he'd still lied. He'd still hidden this from me. He'd still chosen to face this alone instead of trusting me with the truth. I need to see her, I said. What? Violet. I need to meet her. Tomorrow. Brooks looked uncertain. Are you sure? Maybe we should talk more first, process this. Tomorrow, Brooks. Set it up. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Brooks, listening to his breathing, my mind spinning with questions. He had a daughter. A 26-year-old daughter who was about to make him a grandfather. Make us grandparents. The thought was surreal. We'd been trying to figure out if we wanted kids of our own, and now suddenly there was this fully grown adult with a baby on the way. But something still felt off. Why had he sounded so tender on the phone? Why had he said, I love you, in that specific way? You could love your daughter, sure, but the way he'd said it. At 3 a.m. I got up and went to the spare room where I'd hidden my laptop. I looked at Violet's Instagram again, studying every photo with new eyes. If she was Brooks's daughter, why weren't there any pictures of them together? Why hadn't she mentioned him at all? I went back through her posts looking for any clue. And then I found something I'd missed before. A post from 9 months ago, right when she would have contacted Brooks. It was a photo of a letter. The caption read, "Sometimes the truth changes everything." The letter itself was partially visible in the photo. I zoomed in, squinting at the handwriting. Your father's name is Brooks Reed. He never knew about you. I'm sorry I kept this from you for so long, but I thought it was best. Now that I'm sick, you deserve to know where you came from. He was a good man, Violet. I hope he still is. It was signed Mom. So Brooks's story checked out. Violet's mother had told her about him on her deathbed. He really was her father. But I kept looking. Something was still nagging at me. I found it in a post from 3 months ago. It was a screenshot of a text message conversation. Violet had posted it with the caption, "When your person just gets you." The texts were mundane, talking about a movie, making dinner plans. But at the top of the screenshot I could see the contact name. Brooks Blue Heart. Not Dad. Not Father. Just Brooks with a blue heart. My stomach twisted. Maybe she hadn't adjusted to calling him Dad yet. Maybe it was too weird after growing up without him. Or maybe, well, I was being paranoid. Brooks had explained everything. There was a paternity test. This was his daughter. But at 10 a.m. I was going to find out for sure. The next morning, Brooks was a nervous wreck. He changed his shirt 3 times, rehearsed what he was going to say, kept asking if I was sure I wanted to do this. I'm sure, I told him. We were supposed to meet Violet at a cafe near the hospital where her mother was being treated. At 9:45 we got in the car. Brooks was silent during the drive, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Whatever happens, I said quietly, we get through this together. Okay. He looked at me with such relief and love that I felt guilty for doubting him. Okay, he whispered. But I had one more card to play. Emma was already at the hospital, posing as a pharmaceutical rep, ready to accidentally run into Dr. Wu and ask a few casual questions about her patient. We arrived at the cafe at 10:02, and there she was. Violet Ashford was even more beautiful in person. She was sitting at a corner table, one hand resting on her very pregnant belly, her auburn hair catching the morning light. When she saw Brooks, her face lit up with a smile that made my blood run cold. As I knew that smile. I'd given Brooks that same smile 1,000 times. That wasn't the smile of a daughter seeing her father. That was the smile of a woman in love. Brooks didn't seem to notice. He walked over to her and she stood up, carefully supporting her belly, and hugged him. The embrace lasted a few seconds too long. "Violet," Brooks said, pulling back. "This is my wife, Cynthia." Violet's smile dimmed slightly as she looked at me. "It's nice to finally meet you," she said, extending her hand. I shook it, studying her face. "Likewise." We sat down. An awkward silence fell over the table. "So," I said, deciding to just dive in. "Brooks told me everything. This must be a lot for you too." Violet looked at Brooks, then back at me. "It has been. Finding out about all of this. But I'm grateful. Brooks has been amazing through everything." "I'm sorry about your mother," I continued. "How is she doing?" "Not well," Violet said softly. "The cancer is stage 4. They're keeping her comfortable now, but—" She trailed off, tears filling her eyes. Brooks reached across the table and took her hand. "He's strong. She's still fighting." The tenderness in his voice made my chest tight. "And the baby?" I asked, looking at her belly. "When are you due?" 6 weeks, Violet said, placing her hand over her stomach. "It's a girl. Do you have a name picked out?" She glanced at Brooks again. "We were thinking, Grace." "Not I. We." "That's beautiful," I said, my voice steady even as my heart was shattering. "And the father? Is he involved?" The question hung in the air like a bomb. Violet's face went pale. Brooks's hand tightened around hers. It's complicated," Violet said. "I'm sure it is," I replied. "What does he do? Where did you meet?" "Cynthia," Brooks said, his voice holding a warning. "Maybe we should." My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Spoke to Dr. Wu. Violet's mother is not her mother. Patient name is Linda Ashford. Violet is Linda's granddaughter. Parents died in car crash when V was 4. Linda raised her. Dr. Wu mentioned how sad it is that Violet is going through this pregnancy alone. No mention of Brooks at all." I looked up from my phone, my mind reeling. Violet's parents were dead. So who was the woman who wrote that letter? Who told her Brooks was her father? Unless there never was a letter. "Excuse me," I said, standing up. "I need to use the restroom." I walked away on shaking legs, but instead of going to the bathroom I stepped outside and called Emma. "What else did you find out?" I demanded. "The grandmother has been in hospice for 3 weeks. Before that, she was in and out of consciousness from the pain meds. Cynthia, I don't think she could have told Violet about Brooks. And even if she did, why would she know him?" I did some digging. Brooks lived in Seattle until he was 25. Violet was born in Portland. They never even lived in the same city. My vision went dark around the edges. "Emma, I need you to do something else. Can you pull up the paternity test Brooks mentioned?" "How would I?" "He has a file on his computer labeled Important Docs. The password is our anniversary. Can you access it remotely? If he's on the same Wi-Fi network, maybe. Give me 10 minutes. I went back inside, my mind racing. Brooks and Violet were talking quietly, their heads close together. When I sat down, they quickly pulled apart. "Everything okay?" Brooks asked. "Fine," I lied. "So, Violet, tell me about how you found Brooks. How did you know how to reach him?" She hesitated. "My grandmother. Before she got really sick, she told me about him. She gave me his contact information." "That's interesting," I said casually. "Because when did your grandmother go into hospice?" Violet's eyes widened. About 3 weeks ago." "Why? And when did you first contact Brooks?" 10 months ago, Brooks answered, confused. "Why does this matter?" "Because," I said, my voice like ice, "according to her doctor, your mother has been barely conscious for the past month. So unless she gave you Brooks's information from beyond the grave, someone's lying. The color drained from Violet's face. Who are you? I asked quietly. And what do you want from my husband? The cafe seemed to freeze. Brooks was looking between Violet and me, confusion written all over his face. Cynthia, what are you talking about? He asked. But I kept my eyes on Violet. She was trapped and she knew it. I could see her mind working, trying to figure out how to spin this. I don't know what you think you've found, Violet said, her voice shaking, but my grandmother did tell me about Brooks. Before she got really bad. Show me, I said. Show me the letter, the documents, anything that proves Brooks is your father. I don't have to prove anything to you, she shot back, some of her fear turning to anger. Actually, you do. Because my husband has been giving you thousands of dollars, spending hours on the phone with you, hiding your relationship from me. So yes, you absolutely have to prove that you're who you say you are. Brooks stood up. Cynthia, stop it. I had a paternity test done. I'm her father. Where's the test? I asked him. Show it to me right now. It's at home in my files. No, it's not, I said. My phone had just buzzed with another text from Emma. There is no paternity test in your files. There's no medical records, no lab results, nothing. Brooks pulled out his phone, his hands shaking. He opened his files, scrolling frantically. His face went white. It was here, he whispered. I swear it was here. Violet, you sent it to me, remember? The results from that lab in Eugene. Violet was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. But I noticed she wasn't denying anything. What lab? I pressed. What's the name of it? Violet's lips trembled. She looked at Brooks with such desperation that I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Brooks, I can explain, she started. What lab, Violet? Brooks interrupted, his voice hard now. He was finally seeing what I was seeing. Tell me the name of the lab that did the paternity test. She couldn't answer. Because there was no lab. There was no test. Oh my God, Brooks breathed, sinking back into his chair. Oh my God, it was all fake. No. Brooks, please just listen. Who are you? His shout made everyone in the cafe turn to look at us. But he didn't care. Who the hell are you and why have you been lying to me? Violet's face crumpled. She wrapped her arms around her belly protectively, and for a moment I saw her clearly, not as a seductress or a con artist, but as a terrified young woman who'd gotten in way over her head. My name is Violet Ashford, she said quietly. That part is true. And my grandmother is dying. That's true too. Everything I told you about her cancer, about me being alone, it's all true. Except the part about Brooks being your father, I said. She nodded, tears falling onto the table. Except that. Brooks looked like he'd been shot. Why? Why would you do this? Because I needed help, Violet whispered. My grandmother's medical bills were crushing me. I'm barely making minimum wage at the grocery store. I'm pregnant and alone, and the baby's father took off the second he found out. I was drowning and I didn't know what else to do. So you chose my husband? Asked, my voice sharp. Out of everyone in the world, you targeted him? Violet's eyes met mine, and what I saw there made my blood run cold. It wasn't just desperation. It was calculation. I didn't choose randomly, she said. I chose carefully. What does that mean? Brooks demanded. It means, a new voice said from behind us, that my daughter is smarter than you gave her credit for. We all turned. A woman was walking toward us, late 50s, thin but not frail, with the same auburn hair as Violet. She wasn't wearing a hospital gown. She wasn't connected to any machines. She looked perfectly healthy. Grandma, Violet said, but there was no surprise in her voice. This was planned. Hello, Brooks, the woman said, sliding into the empty chair at our table. It's been a long time. Brooks stared at her, his face blank with confusion. Do I know you? Oh, you don't remember? The woman's smile was bitter. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. It was only one night to you after all. But it was enough to destroy my daughter's life. And then I saw it. In the shape of her eyes, the curve of her mouth. This woman looked like Brooks. Not a lot, but enough. Linda, Brooks breathed, the name coming to him like a ghost from the past. Linda Ashford. Actually, it's Linda Reed, she corrected. Or it was for about 3 years. I was married to your brother. The world tilted sideways. What? Brooks and I said in unison. Your brother, Tyler Reed, Linda continued, her voice dripping with venom. We got married when I was 22 and he was 25. He was charming, successful, everything I'd ever wanted. And then I got pregnant with my daughter, Catherine. I don't understand, Brooks said. Tyler lives in Boston. He's been married to Jennifer for 15 years. They have 2 kids. Oh, I know all about Jennifer, Linda spat. She's wife number 2. I was wife number 1. The one he erased from his history. The one he left when our daughter was 6 months old. He said I'd trapped him, that he was too young to be a father. He filed for divorce, got a fancy lawyer, and made sure I got almost nothing in the settlement. Then he moved across the country and pretended we never existed. I was trying to process this. Brooks had a brother named Tyler. They were close when they were younger but had drifted apart over the years. Brooks rarely talked about him. I'd met Tyler maybe twice in 7 years. That's terrible, Brooks said slowly, and I'm sorry that happened to you. But what does any of this have to do with me? I didn't even know Tyler was married before Jennifer. Of course you didn't, Linda said. Because your precious brother never told anyone in the family about me. He was ashamed of us. But I never forgot. And when my daughter Catherine died in that car accident 4 years ago, leaving Violet orphaned at 22, I made a promise to myself. The Reed family was going to pay for what they took from us. The pieces were clicking into place, but the picture they formed was uglier than anything I could have imagined. You're not sick, I said to Linda. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, she replied. Diagnosed 4 months ago. I'm not in hospice yet, but I will be soon. Which means I'm running out of time to make this right for my granddaughter. Make what right? Brooks demanded. You've been scamming me. Lying to me for 10 months. You owe us. Linda's voice rose and her calm facade cracked. Your brother destroyed my life. He abandoned his daughter. That money you gave Violet? That's a fraction of what Tyler should have paid in child support. That's a fraction of what we deserved. So you what? Decided to catfish my husband? I asked, my voice deadly quiet. Pretend to be his daughter so he'd give you money? It was easy, Violet said, speaking for the first time since her grandmother arrived. She wasn't crying anymore. Her face was hard, defiant. I found Brooks on Facebook. Saw he lived in Portland, saw he was successful, saw that you two looked happy. Made me sick. Tyler's brother, living this perfect life while my mom was dead and I was pregnant and alone. So you invented a story, I continued. Created a fake paternity test. It looked real, didn't it? Violet interrupted. I have a friend who works in a lab. He helped me create the document. I sent it to Brooks from a burner email. He believed it immediately because he wanted to believe it. He wanted to be the good guy who steps up for his long-lost daughter. Brooks's face was gray. The phone calls, he whispered. The things I told you, the way you'd cry about your mother dying, about being scared of raising the baby alone. All true, Violet said. I just let you think you were my father. Let you think you had some obligation to save me. And you did, didn't you? $16,000. It paid for Grandma's treatment, for my rent, for baby supplies. You fixed everything just like I knew you would. You manipulated him, I said, standing up. You preyed on his guilt and his desire to do the right thing. That's not just a scam. That's psychological abuse. Call it whatever you want, Linda said, standing too. We got what we needed. And honestly, we would have just disappeared after the baby came. You never would have known the truth. But you couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? She glared at me. Did you really think you'd get away with this? I asked. We already have, Violet said, placing her hand on her belly. What are you going to do? Call the police. And tell them what? That Brooks willingly gave me money? That he chose to help someone he thought was his daughter? We didn't steal anything. We didn't forge any checks. We just let him believe what he wanted to believe. She was right and I knew it. Brooks had given her the money voluntarily. The fake paternity test was evidence of fraud, sure, but was it enough to prosecute? And did we really want to drag this through the courts, expose Brooks's private life, make this public? I want my money back, Brooks said quietly. Every cent. Linda laughed. It's gone. Medical bills, rent, food. All gone. But sure, take us to court. Drag yourself through the mud trying to get blood from a stone. By the time you win, If you win, I'll be dead and Violet will be a struggling single mother. Good luck getting anything from her. They turned to leave. They actually thought they'd won. But they didn't know me. They didn't know that I'd spent the last 24 hours planning for every contingency. They didn't know that Emma wasn't just at the hospital gathering information. She was also serving legal papers. Violet Ashford? A man in a suit appeared at her elbow. You've been served. He handed her a manila envelope and walked away. Violet opened it with shaking hands. Her face went white as she read. What is this? She whispered. That, I said, is a lawsuit. Not for fraud. Not for the money. But for parental fraud. See, in Oregon, if you falsely claim someone is the father of your child and receive material support based on that false claim, the victim can sue for emotional distress and intentional infliction of emotional harm. And unlike criminal court, civil court has a much lower burden of proof. You can't. I can, I interrupted. And I will. You wanted to play games with my family? Fine. Let's play. Let's drag this through civil court where we'll depose you, your grandmother, your friend who made the fake test. Let's put every detail of your lives under a microscope. Let's see how that goes. Linda's confident smile was gone. You're bluffing. That lawsuit will cost you thousands. I have thousands, I replied. Unlike you, I actually work for my money. And I'm willing to spend every penny I have to make sure you pay for this. Why? Violet asked, and she sounded genuinely confused. Why do you care so much? You got what you wanted. You know the truth now. Brooks is yours, not mine. We're nothing to you. You're right, I said. You are nothing to me. But what you did to my husband, making him believe he had a daughter, letting him bond with you, letting him love you, and then ripping it all away, that's unforgivable. You didn't just scam him. You broke his heart. I looked at Brooks. He was sitting with his head in his hands and I could see his shoulders shaking. He was crying again. But this time I knew why. He'd loved Violet. In just 10 months he'd genuinely come to love this woman he thought was his daughter. He'd imagined a future with her in it, with a granddaughter to spoil and a relationship to build. And it was all a lie. You're monsters, I told them. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. Please, Violet said, and now she was crying too. Real tears, not the manipulative ones she'd probably been using on Brooks for months. Please, I'm sorry. I was desperate. I never meant to hurt him this badly. But you did, I said. And now you're going to pay for it. We left the cafe in silence. Brooks didn't speak during the drive home. He didn't speak when we got inside. He just went to our bedroom and closed the door. I wanted to comfort him, to hold him and tell him everything would be okay. But I was furious. Not at him, at them. At Violet and Linda and everyone who thought they could destroy someone's life without consequences. I called Emma. Did you see it go down? I asked. I was watching from across the street, she confirmed. That was brutal. How's Brooks? Broken. Emma, I need your help with something else. I need to know everything about Linda and Violet Ashford. Bank records, employment history, social media, everything. Cynthia, this is starting to feel like stalking. It's not stalking. It's due diligence for our lawsuit. We need evidence that this was premeditated fraud. Can you help me or not? Emma sighed. You know I can't resist a good revenge plot. Give me until tomorrow morning. While Emma dug into the Ashfords' lives, I started my own investigation. I went through every text message Brooks had exchanged with Violet over the past 10 months. He'd given me permission to access his phone, too devastated to care about privacy anymore. Reading the messages made me feel physically ill. Violet had been so good at playing the role. She'd sent him photos of ultrasounds, probably stolen from the internet. She'd called him at just the right times when she knew he'd be alone, so he'd feel like they had this special secret relationship. She'd asked for advice about baby names, about whether she was doing the right thing keeping the pregnancy. And Brooks had responded with such love, such genuine care. He'd sent her articles about pregnancy nutrition. He'd recommended pediatricians. He'd told her about his own childhood, his hopes and dreams, things he'd never even told me. That hurt worse than if he'd actually cheated. Because at least an affair would have been about sex, about a moment of weakness. This was emotional intimacy. This was him opening his heart to someone who was just using him. I found a voice message from 3 months ago. Violet sobbing, saying she was scared, that she didn't know if she could do this alone. And Brooks's response, "You're not alone. You have me now. I'm your dad and I'm not going anywhere. I promise." I closed the phone and cried. Around midnight, Brooks emerged from the bedroom. His eyes were red and swollen. "I'm so sorry," he said. "You didn't do anything wrong. I lied to you for 10 months. I hid an entire relationship from you. I let that woman manipulate me." "You thought she was your daughter," I said gently. "You thought you were doing the right thing. I was an idiot." "No. You were kind. You have a good heart and she weaponized it against you." I stood up and went to him, wrapping my arms around him. "This isn't your fault, Brooks. None of this is your fault." He held me tight and we stayed like that for a long time. "What happens now?" he finally asked. "Now," I said, "we make them regret ever targeting our family." The next morning, Emma showed up at our door with a laptop and a manila folder thick with documents. "You're not going to believe what I found," she said, spreading papers across our kitchen table. Brooks and I sat down, and Emma began her presentation like she was delivering a corporate briefing. Linda Ashford, 57, currently unemployed. She was married to Tyler Reed from 1989 to 1992. They had one daughter, Catherine, born in 1990. Tyler did file for divorce and the settlement was minimal. That part checks out. Linda raised Catherine as a single mother, working various retail jobs. "What about the cancer?" I asked. "That's real too. She was diagnosed 4 months ago with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She's been doing chemo at Oregon Health, but the prognosis is poor. 6 months to a year according to her medical records." "How did you get her medical records?" Brooks asked. Emma just smiled. "Let's say I have friends in low places." Now here's where it gets interesting. Linda's been bitter about Tyler for decades. She's posted about him on social media, always carefully not using his name but making it clear she was wronged by her ex-husband. She joined single mother support groups and online forums where she talked about deadbeat dads. "So she's been nursing this grudge for 30 years, I said. "Exactly. Now her daughter Catherine married young, had Violet at 21, then died with her husband in a car accident when Violet was 4. Linda raised Violet alone, just like she'd raised Catherine. And Violet grew up hearing stories about the evil Reed family that abandoned them. So this was always about revenge," Brooks said quietly. "Wait, it gets better," Emma continued. 6 months ago, right before Linda's cancer diagnosis, Violet got pregnant. The father is a guy named Justin Cole, 28, works in construction. They'd been dating for about a year. When Violet told him she was pregnant, he broke up with her and moved to California. So Violet really was alone and desperate, I said. "Right. And that's when Linda hatched the plan. She'd been following your lives on social media for years, Brooks. She knew where you worked, where you lived, that you were married. She saw that you and Tyler had drifted apart, that you might not know about his first marriage. So she created this elaborate scheme." Emma pulled out more documents. "This is the friend who made the fake paternity test. Melissa Chong works as a lab tech at a fertility clinic. She's also been friends with Violet since high school. And here's her bank records showing Violet paid her $500 for creating the fake document." "That's conspiracy to commit fraud," I said. "That's evidence," Emma corrected. "Here's more. Violet spent 2 months researching Brooks before she ever contacted him. She joined groups he was in online, learned his interests, his values. She crafted her whole persona to be exactly the kind of daughter he'd want." Brooks looked sick. "How did she even contact me the first time?" Emma pulled up a screenshot. Facebook message. She said she was his daughter from a relationship he probably didn't remember. She included a photo of her mother, Catherine, and said she'd just found out before her grandmother got sick. She sounded scared and vulnerable and desperately in need of a father figure. "And I fell for it," Brooks whispered. "Anyone would have," I assured him. "She did her homework. She knew exactly what buttons to push." "There's more," Emma said. "Linda has been telling everyone she knows about the plan. She posted in a private Facebook group for cancer patients about how she was making things right before she died. She didn't use names, but she talked about getting justice for her daughter and granddaughter. Can we use that?" I asked. "Absolutely. It shows premeditation. This wasn't a desperate act in the moment. This was calculated, planned revenge." "What about the $16,000? Brooks asked. Can we prove what they spent it on? Emma nodded. Most of it went to medical bills like they said. But about $4,000 went to non-essential purchases. New furniture for Violet's apartment, a vacation to the coast, expensive baby items. Not exactly life or death stuff. So they were living it up on Brooks's guilt money, I said, my anger rising again. Basically. Oh, and here's the kicker. Emma pulled out one more document with a flourish. I found Linda's will. She had it updated 2 months ago. Want to know what it says? We both leaned in. She's leaving everything to Violet, obviously. But there's a note in the will that says, and I quote, I hope the Reed family's money helps you raise this baby the way their family should have helped raise you and your mother. May they rot in hell for what they did to us. She put that in her will? Brooks looked stunned. Apparently she wanted to make sure her bitterness outlived her, Emma said dryly. I sat back processing all of this. We had evidence. We had motive. We had a clear pattern of fraud and manipulation. But something was still bothering me. Emma, what happened to Tyler's daughter? Catherine, you said she died in a car accident, but what about her relationship with Tyler? Did he ever try to contact her? Emma's face darkened. That's the truly sad part. I found court records from when Catherine was 16. He tried to contact Tyler, wanted to meet him. Linda had to approve it since Catherine was a minor. Tyler refused to meet her. He sent a letter through his lawyer saying he'd signed away his parental rights years ago and had no interest in a relationship. Oh God, I breathed. Catherine was devastated, according to some old blog posts Linda made. She went into a depression, started therapy. The rejection really messed her up. And 2 years later she was dead. So Linda blames Tyler not just for abandoning her, but for contributing to Catherine's emotional problems, I said. And by extension she blames the entire Reed family, Emma concluded. In her mind, if Tyler had been a father to Catherine, maybe Catherine would have been more stable, made better choices, not ended up dead at 34. It's not logical, but grief and anger rarely are. Brooks stood up abruptly and walked to the window, his back to us. Brooks, I said softly. Tyler is a piece of shit, he said, his voice rough. I always knew he was selfish and cold, but this? He abandoned a child. His own daughter. And when she reached out to him, he rejected her again. He turned to face us and I saw tears in his eyes. Linda is right to hate him. I hate him. That doesn't make what she did to you okay, I said firmly. I know. But I understand it now. She couldn't get revenge on Tyler, so she went after me. The brother who didn't stop him, who didn't even know about Catherine, who lived his happy life while her family suffered. You can't take on Tyler's sins, I told him. But I can make them right, Brooks said, and I saw something shift in his eyes. Determination replacing the heartbreak. I can do what Tyler should have done. What do you mean? I mean I want to drop the lawsuit. What? No. I stood up. Brooks, they scammed you. They broke your heart. They deserve to face consequences. They do, he agreed. But Violet is still pregnant. Linda is still dying. Making them pay won't change what Tyler did to them. It'll just add more suffering to an already tragic story. So you're just going to let them get away with it? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. No. I'm going to offer them a deal. I thought Brooks had lost his mind. After everything Violet and Linda had done, he wanted to help them. But as he explained his plan, I started to see the genius in it, and the revenge. We're going to visit them, Brooks said. At Linda's house. And we're going to make them an offer they can't refuse. The next day, we showed up at Linda's small rental house in a rundown part of Portland. The yard was overgrown, the paint was peeling, and I could see why they'd been so desperate for money. Violet answered the door, her eyes wary. What do you want? To talk, Brooks said calmly. No lawyers, no recording devices. Just a conversation. She didn't want to let us in, but Linda called from inside. Let them in, Violet. Let's hear what they have to say. The interior of the house was clean but sparse. Worn furniture, outdated appliances, the kind of place where people lived paycheck to paycheck. Linda was sitting in a recliner, a blanket over her legs despite the warm day. She looked thinner than she had at the cafe, more fragile. The cancer was eating her alive. Nice place, I said, not bothering to hide the sarcasm. Say what you came to say, Linda replied. Brooks sat down across from her. I stood behind him, arms crossed. I spoke to my brother, Brooks began. Linda's eyes widened slightly. Tyler knows about this? He knows everything. I called him yesterday and told him about you, about Catherine, about Violet. I told him what you did to me and why you did it. And Linda's voice was defiant, but I could hear the tremor underneath. And he doesn't care. He said, and I quote, "That's not my problem. I made my choice 30 years ago and I stand by it." Violet gasped. He said that. Even knowing about the baby? Even knowing about the baby, Brooks confirmed. Tyler is a selfish bastard who doesn't deserve to be called a father or a grandfather. But you already knew that. So why are you here? Linda asked. To rub it in? To tell us that we wasted our revenge on the wrong Reed? No, Brooks said. I'm here to offer you a deal. A real one, not the scam you pulled on me. He pulled out a document from his bag and laid it on the coffee table. This is a contract. If you sign it, I will drop the lawsuit against you. I will also give Violet $50,000 for the baby, to be put in a trust fund that releases monthly payments for childcare, medical expenses, and education. Violet's hands flew to her mouth. Linda leaned forward, suspicious. What's the catch? Linda asked. Several catches, I said, speaking for the first time. First, you publicly admit what you did. A written confession detailing the fake paternity test, the manipulation, all of it. We'll keep it private unless you ever try to contact Brooks or anyone in the Reed family again. Second, Brooks continued, Violet goes to therapy. Real therapy paid for by the trust, to deal with her family history and learn how to be a better person than her grandfather. Third, I added, you both sign a non-disclosure agreement. You never speak publicly about Brooks, about this situation, about any of it. You take the money and you disappear from our lives forever. And fourth, Brooks said, his voice hard now, when Linda dies, and I'm sorry to be blunt, but we all know it's coming, I want to be named as Violet's emergency contact. Not to be her father figure. Not to have a relationship. But if something happens, if she needs help, she can call me. Once. And I'll decide if I want to help or not. Linda and Violet looked at each other, having some silent conversation. Why would you do this? Violet finally asked. After what we did to you. Because, Brooks said, Catherine deserved better. She deserved a father who loved her, who supported her, who was there for her. Tyler failed her. And while I can't change the past, I can make sure his granddaughter has the support his daughter never got. Not because you deserve it, Violet, but because that baby deserves to have someone in the Reed family who gives a damn. Tears were streaming down Violet's face. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you like this. I was so angry, and Grandma said this was justice, and I didn't think about you as a real person. Just as a symbol of everything that had gone wrong in our lives. I know, Brooks said quietly. And I understand. But understanding doesn't mean I can trust you. This offer comes with strict boundaries. You take the money, you get help, and you leave us alone. Forever. If you violate any part of this agreement, I will take you to court and I will destroy you. I have the resources, the evidence, and the motivation. Do you understand? Violet nodded, still crying. Linda was silent for a long moment, studying Brooks's face. You really are nothing like your brother, she finally said. No, Brooks agreed. I'm not. Catherine would have liked you, Linda said softly, and for the first time, I saw genuine emotion in her eyes. Not anger or bitterness, but grief. She just wanted a father to love her. That's all she ever wanted. Then let me give her granddaughter what she never had, Brooks said. Let me be the Reed family member who doesn't abandon a child. Linda reached for the contract with shaking hands. She read through it carefully, her lips moving silently. Then she looked at Violet. It's your choice, honey, Linda said. I'll be gone soon. This is your life, your future. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. Violet looked at the document, then at Brooks, then at me. Can I ask one more thing? What? Asked my voice cold. Can I know why you're really doing this? Because I don't believe it's just charity. You're angry. I can see it. So what's the real reason? I smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. You want to know the real reason? Fine. I'll tell you. The real reason is that this way you have to live with what you did. If we sued you, you could play the victim. Poor single mother attacked by the wealthy couple. But this way, you have to accept charity from the man you tried to destroy. Every month, when that trust payment comes through, you'll remember that you earned that money by breaking a good man's heart. Every time your daughter asks where the money came from, you'll have to live with the lie. You wanted to make Brooks pay for his brother's sins? Well, now you'll spend the rest of your life paying for your own. Violet flinched like I'd slapped her. And the best part? I continued, leaning in close. Every single person in your life will think Brooks is a saint for helping you. They'll never know the truth. You'll never be able to tell your side of the story, never be able to justify what you did. You'll just have to smile and say thank you and live with the guilt. That's the real revenge. Not destroying you, reforming you. Making you into a decent person despite yourself. Linda started laughing. It was a dry, rattling sound. You're vicious, she said to me. I like you. I don't care if you like me, I replied. I care that you sign that contract and get out of our lives. Linda picked up the pen. Where do I sign? 2 hours later, we left the house with signed contracts, written confessions, and the knowledge that we'd won. Not through cruelty or revenge, but through something more powerful. Strategic kindness that would haunt them forever. In the car, Brooks was quiet. Are you okay? I asked. I don't know, he admitted. Part of me feels good about doing the right thing for that baby. But part of me still feels so angry and hurt. That's normal. They did hurt you. Badly. I really thought I had a daughter, he said, his voice breaking. For 10 months I believed it. I let myself love her. And it was all fake. Not all of it, I said gently. Your love was real. Your desire to be a good father was real. Violet and Linda may have been lying, but your feelings were genuine. That matters. Does it? Because it still feels like I was an idiot. You were trusting. There's a difference. I took his hand. And we're going to get through this together. You, me. The real family. He squeezed my hand. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. And you're going to spend the rest of our lives proving it. He smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in days. Deal. 3 weeks passed. Brooks threw himself into work, trying to move past the betrayal. I watched him carefully, looking for signs that he was falling into depression, but he seemed to be processing it healthily. We started couples therapy to work through the trust issues and communication problems that had allowed this to happen in the first place. Then on a rainy Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Cynthia. The voice was weak, strained. It's Violet. My body tensed. What do you want? You're violating the contract by calling me. I know. Please just listen. It's my grandmother. She's dying. Like right now. And she's asking for Brooks. I almost hung up. Almost told her to deal with it herself. But something in her voice stopped me. Why does she want to see him? I asked. I don't know. Please. She doesn't have much time. I know we don't deserve any more kindness from you, but she's my grandmother and this is her dying wish. I looked across the room at Brooks, who was working on his laptop. Did I really want to put him through more pain? Did Linda deserve to see him before she died? But this wasn't about what Linda deserved. It was about who Brooks was. And he was the kind of man who would regret not answering a dying woman's call. We'll be there in 30 minutes, I said. Brooks looked up in surprise when I told him. She wants to see me? Why? I don't know. But you'll regret it if you don't go. He considered for a moment, then nodded. You're right. Let's go. We drove to Oregon Health in silence. The hospice ward was quiet, peaceful in that eerie way hospitals are when people are actively dying. Violet met us in the hallway. She looked exhausted, her pregnant belly even bigger than before. Thank you for coming, she said quietly. She's in room 304. He's not very coherent. The pain medication is pretty strong. But she keeps asking for Brooks. Brooks squared his shoulders and walked into the room. I followed, staying near the door. Linda looked nothing like the woman we'd seen 3 weeks ago. She was skeletal, her skin gray, her breathing labored. But when she saw Brooks, her eyes focused. You came, she rasped. I came, Brooks confirmed, sitting in the chair next to her bed. Needed to tell you. Linda struggled for breath. Fronted. It's okay, Brooks said gently. You don't have to. Let me finish, she interrupted with surprising strength. Catherine wanted a father like you. Researched Tyler. Found you, saw you were a good man. She wanted to contact you, to ask if you'd be her father. instead of him. Brooks went very still. What? Before she died. She found you on internet. Wrote you letter. Never sent it. Too scared. I found it in her things after the accident. Linda's shaking hand reached for the bedside table. Violet stepped forward and pulled out an envelope, yellowed with age. She handed it to Brooks. With trembling fingers, Brooks opened it. Inside was a letter written in looping handwriting. He read aloud, his voice breaking. Dear Uncle Brooks, you don't know me, but I'm your niece, Catherine Reed. My father is your brother Tyler, but he doesn't want me. He never did. I've tried to contact him, but he says I'm not his daughter anymore, that he signed away his rights. I don't know if you know about me or not. Dad probably never mentioned me. But I found you online and I've been reading about your life. You seem like a good person. You seem like the kind of man who would have been a good father if you'd had the chance. I know this is crazy. I know I'm just some random teenager and you have your own life. But I was wondering, could I maybe meet you? Just once. I just want to know what it's like to have someone from my father's family acknowledge that I exist. I'm sorry if this is too much. My mom says I shouldn't reach out, that the Reed family doesn't want us. But I had to try. I had to know if maybe, somewhere in that family, there was someone who might care about me. If you don't want to respond, I understand. But if you do, I'll be waiting. Your niece, Catherine. The letter was dated 2 months before her death. Brooks looked up at Linda with tears streaming down his face. She never sent this? Linda shook her head. Too scared of rejection. After Tyler. Couldn't risk it again. Then she died, and I found it. Made me so angry. If you'd known, maybe she would have had something to live for. You blamed me, Brooks whispered. All this time, you blamed me for not being there for her when I never even knew she existed. I know. Wrong of me. But grief makes you crazy. Made me want revenge. Wanted Reed family to hurt like we hurt. So you used Violet to hurt me. Yes. But then, you were kind. You loved her, like you would have loved Catherine. And I saw. Linda's breathing was getting worse. Saw that I was wrong. Tyler is monster. But you're good. Like Catherine thought. She reached out a skeletal hand. Brooks took it. I'm sorry, Linda wheezed. So sorry. Catherine would hate what I did. She wouldn't want revenge. She'd want forgiveness. I forgive you, Brooks said, and I could hear that he meant it. I forgive you, Linda. Thank you, she breathed. Tell Violet. Be better than me. Let go of the anger. I will, Brooks promised. Linda's eyes found mine. You do, Cynthia. Take care of him. He's one of good ones. I know, I said, my own tears falling now. Linda smiled just a little. Then her eyes closed. The heart monitor's beeping slowed, then stopped. She was gone. Violet collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Nurses came in, checking vitals, officially calling the time of death. The room filled with quiet, efficient movement. Brooks stood up, still holding Catherine's letter. He looked at me. I could have known her, he said. If she'd just sent the letter, I could have known my niece. I would have loved her. I know, I said, putting my arm around him. Tyler destroyed so many lives. Catherine, Linda, Violet. And for what? Because he didn't want to be inconvenienced by a child he created. Some people are just broken, I said. And they break everyone around them. Brooks turned to Violet, who was still crying. You okay? She looked up at him, her face blotchy and swollen. She was all I had. And now she's gone. And I'm going to be a mother in a few weeks, and I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm so scared. Brooks hesitated, then sat down next to her. You're going to be okay. You have the trust fund. You're going to get therapy. And you're going to be a better mother than you had, and a better person than your grandmother was at the end. How do you know? Because you have a choice. Linda was consumed by bitterness and it poisoned her whole life. But you can choose differently. You can let go of the anger and build something new. I don't know if I can. You can. Because you have to. For your daughter. Violet placed her hand on her belly. Grace, she whispered. I'm really going to name her Grace. After my mom's middle name. That's beautiful, Brooks said. Will you? Violet hesitated. I know I don't have the right to ask. And I know the contract says we can't contact you. But will you, when Grace is born, Will you at least want to know? That she's okay? Brooks looked at me. I could see the question in his eyes. I nodded slightly. Send one email, Brooks said. When she's born. Let me know she's healthy. And then that's it. That's the only contact we have. You raise her, you love her, and you never tell her about any of this. She doesn't need to know about Tyler or the scam or any of it. She just needs to grow up knowing she's loved. Can you do that? Yes, Violet said. I promise. Then we have a deal. 2 months later, I was at work when the email came. Subject line, she's here. Grace Ashford was born this morning at 6:47 a.m. 7 pounds 3 ounces. Healthy and perfect. Thank you for everything. We'll honor our agreement. V. There was a single photo attached. A tiny baby with a shock of dark hair and a scrunched up red face. I showed Brooks that evening. He looked at the photo for a long time without speaking. She's beautiful, he finally said. She is. I hope Violet really does get therapy. I hope she becomes a good mom. Me too. He closed the laptop. Thank you. For what? For not leaving me when you found out. For standing by me through all of this. For helping me figure out the right thing to do. Brooks, I love you. I wasn't going to leave you for being a good person. I know. But a lot of people would have. This whole situation was insane. Yeah, I agreed. It really was. We were quiet for a moment. Then Brooks said, I want to find Tyler. I looked up in surprise. Why? Because someone needs to tell him what his selfishness cost. Catherine is dead. Linda is dead. Violet is traumatized. All because he couldn't be bothered to be a father. He needs to know. What good will that do? Probably none. But I need to say it. I need to look my brother in the eye and tell him he's a coward and a failure. Hey, I said. Then let's go to Boston. 1 week later, we were standing outside Tyler's expensive brownstone in a wealthy Boston neighborhood. Everything about the place screamed money and success. Tyler had done well for himself. Built a whole perfect life while his first family suffered. Brooks rang the doorbell. A woman answered, Jennifer, Tyler's second wife. She was polished and pretty, with the kind of smile that came from a lifetime of never facing real hardship. Can I help you? She asked. I'm here to see Tyler. I'm his brother. Her eyes widened. Brooks? Oh my goodness. Tyler said you two had lost touch. Come in, come in. We followed her into a house that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Hardwood floors, expensive art, designer furniture. In the living room, 2 teenagers were doing homework at the dining table. Tyler's legitimate children, the ones he'd chosen to claim. Tyler. Jennifer called up the stairs. Your brother is here. Tyler came down the stairs and I saw Brooks tense next to me. The brothers looked alike. Same dark hair, same build. But where Brooks's face was open and kind, Tyler's was sharp and calculating. Brooks, Tyler said, surprise in his voice. What are you doing here? We need to talk. Alone. Something in Brooks's tone made Jennifer take the hint. Kids, let's go get ice cream. Give your father and uncle some privacy. Once they were gone, Tyler poured himself a scotch. He didn't offer us any. So, he said, you came all this way. Must be important. Catherine tried to contact me before she died, Brooks said without preamble. Tyler's face went blank. Who? Don't. Brooks's voice was dangerous. Don't you dare pretend you don't know who your daughter was. That girl wasn't my daughter. I signed away my rights. She was your daughter. Your blood. Your responsibility. And when she reached out to you, you rejected her. Do you have any idea what that did to her? What did you want me to do, Brooks? I was 25 years old with a kid I never wanted. I made a choice. I moved on. You destroyed her, Brooks said, his voice shaking. Your rejection sent her into depression. She died thinking her own father didn't love her. And her daughter, your granddaughter, grew up being taught to hate the Reed family because of what you did. That's not my problem. Not your problem. She was a child, Tyler. Your child. And you threw her away like garbage. I gave Linda money in the divorce. I fulfilled my legal obligations. Legal obligations? Brooks laughed bitterly. Is that all you think fatherhood is? Writing a check? Catherine didn't need money. She needed a father. She needed someone to love her. Well, she didn't get one. Life's tough. I watched Brooks's hands clench into fists. I'd never seen him this angry. You're a monster, Brooks said quietly. You're a selfish, heartless monster. And I'm ashamed to be related to you. Are you done? Tyler asked, bored. No. I want you to know that Catherine wrote me a letter before she died. She wanted to know if I would be the father you refused to be. And I never got that letter. I never got the chance to know her. But I know her daughter now, Violet, and her granddaughter, Grace. And I'm going to make sure that little girl knows at least one Reed who isn't a complete piece of shit. Tyler's face hardened. You're helping them? After what they did to you? Linda told me about the scam. He called me, right before she died. Wanted me to know she'd gotten revenge on the Reed family through you. I know about the scam. I know everything. And yes, I'm still helping them. Because someone has to break this cycle of abandonment and revenge. Someone has to be better than you. You're a fool. Maybe. But I'm a fool who can sleep at night. Can you say the same? For just a moment I saw something flicker in Tyler's eyes. Guilt? Regret? But it was gone in an instant, replaced by cold indifference. Get out of my house, Tyler said. Gladly. But I want you to know one more thing. Jennifer and your kids. They deserve to know the truth about you. About Catherine and Violet and Grace. About the family you abandoned. Tyler went pale. You wouldn't. I would. And I will. Not today, maybe not tomorrow. But someday your perfect little family is going to find out what kind of man you really are. And when they look at you with disgust and disappointment, remember this conversation. Remember that you could have been better. You just chose not to be. Brooks turned and walked out. I followed him, leaving Tyler standing alone in his expensive house with his expensive scotch and his cheap soul. In the car, Brooks was shaking. Did I do the right thing? He asked. Yes, I said firmly. He needed to hear that. Even if he doesn't care, even if it doesn't change anything, you needed to say it. I meant what I said. About telling Jennifer and the kids. I know. But think carefully about that. Those kids are innocent in all this. Do you really want to blow up their lives? Brooks was quiet for a long time. No, he finally admitted. No, I don't. They didn't do anything wrong. It's not their fault their father is who he is. So we let it go? We let it go, he confirmed. Tyler will have to live with his own conscience. Or lack thereof. We drove to the airport and flew home, leaving Boston and Tyler behind. The email came on a Tuesday afternoon. Subject line, I'm breaking the rules. I almost deleted it without reading. But something made me open it. Dear Brooks and Cynthia, I know I promised to never contact you again after Grace was born. I know I'm violating our agreement. But I need you to know something. I've been in therapy for 5 years now. Real therapy, the kind that makes you face all the ugly parts of yourself. And I've learned so much about why I did what I did, about the generational trauma and anger that I inherited from my grandmother. But more than that, I've learned about Grace. Real Grace, not just my daughter's name. The Grace you showed me when you had every right to destroy me. The Grace Brooks showed my grandmother on her deathbed. The Grace that broke the cycle of revenge and anger that had consumed my family for decades. I'm writing because Grace asked me yesterday where her money comes from. The trust fund that pays for her daycare and her doctor visits and everything else. She's 5 now, old enough to ask questions. I told her the truth. Not all of it, she's too young for that. But I told her that a kind man named Brooks set up the fund because he wanted to make sure she had a good life. I told her that Brooks knew her great-grandmother and wanted to honor her memory. She asked if she could meet Brooks someday. To say thank you. I told her probably not, that Brooks lives far away and is very busy. But I promised her that when she's older I'll tell her the whole story. The good and the bad. The mistakes I made and the kindness you showed. I don't expect you to respond to this email. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that your choice to be merciful instead of vengeful changed my life. Changed my daughter's life. Changed our entire family's legacy. Grace is happy. She's healthy. She's kind and funny and smart. She's everything my mother and grandmother never got to be because they were too consumed by bitterness. And that's because of you. Thank you. For everything. For giving me the chance to be better. For giving Grace a chance at a life without the poison of generational anger. I hope you're both well. I hope you're happy. You deserve every happiness in the world. With gratitude and respect, Violet. Attached were 3 photos. Grace at her 5th birthday party blowing out candles. Grace on her first day of kindergarten, missing her 2 front teeth. Grace at a park, laughing on a swing set, her dark hair flying behind her. She had Tyler's eyes. Brooks's eyes. I showed Brooks the email that evening. He read it twice, studying the photos for a long time. "She looks happy," he finally said. "She does. Do you think Violet really changed? Or is this another manipulation?" "I think," I said carefully, "that people can change if they want to badly enough. And I think Violet wanted to change for her daughter." "Should I respond? Do you want to?" Brooks considered. "I want to. But I don't know what to say." "Then maybe don't say anything yet. Sit with it for a while. See how you feel in a few days." He nodded. But I saw him looking at the photos again before bed. And the next morning. And the morning after that. A week later he finally typed out a response. "Dear Violet, thank you for the update in the photos. Grace is beautiful. I'm glad she's happy and healthy. I'm glad therapy has helped you. Breaking generational cycles is hard work, but it's worth it. You don't need to tell Grace about me. But if you do someday, tell her that I hoped she would have a good life. That's all I ever wanted. Take care of yourself and your daughter. Brooks." He showed me before sending it. "Is it too cold?" he asked. "It's honest," I replied. "That's better than cold or warm. It's real." He hit send. That could have been the end of the story. But life has a way of surprising you. 3 years later we got another email. This time from an address we didn't recognize. Subject line: "You don't know me, but..." "Dear Uncle Brooks. My name is Grace Ashford. I'm 8 years old. My mom says you helped us a long time ago and that you're a good person. I'm writing because I'm doing a project at school about family trees. I know about my mom and my grandma Linda, who died before I was born. But my mom says my great-grandfather's name was Tyler Reed and he had a brother named Brooks Reed. That's you, right? So that makes you my great-great-uncle? Is that a thing? My teacher says it is. I don't expect you to write back if you don't want to. My mom says you're very private. But I wanted you to know that I'm grateful for what you did for us. My mom says without you our lives would be very different. I'm in 3rd grade. I like reading and art and animals. I want to be a veterinarian when I grow up. I have a pet hamster named Cinnamon. If you ever want to write back, I'd like to hear about what you do and what you're like. But if you don't, I understand. Thank you for helping my mom and me. Your great-great-niece Grace." The email was clearly written by a child. Simple, honest, with a photo attached of a little girl holding a hamster. Brooks stared at the screen for a long time. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "I'm thinking," he said slowly, "that I told Tyler someday his perfect family would find out the truth. But maybe this is better. Maybe instead of destroying Tyler's family, I get to know this one. The family he threw away. You want to respond? Is that crazy? After everything that happened." I thought about it. About Violet's manipulation and Linda's revenge and all the pain that had been caused. But I also thought about Grace, an innocent child who just wanted to know where she came from. "I don't think it's crazy," I said. "I think it's human. You have a chance to know your niece even if the relationship is complicated. That's worth something." Brooks nodded slowly. Then he started typing. "Dear Grace. Yes, I'm your great-great-uncle. You're right, that's a real thing. I'd be happy to answer your questions. I work with computers and I like hiking and reading like you. I don't have any pets right now, but I used to have a dog named Biscuit when I was your age. It's nice to meet you, Grace. Your mother is right. Without the choices we all made years ago, your life would be very different. I'm glad you're doing well. Your great-great-uncle Brooks. P.S. Cinnamon is a great name for a hamster." He showed it to me before sending. "Too much. Not enough." "It's perfect," I assured him. And so began a correspondence. Nothing intense, just occasional emails between a middle-aged man and a curious child. Grace would tell him about school and her friends. Brooks would share stories about his work and his childhood. They never talked about the past, about the betrayal or the pain. They just built something new. Violet never inserted herself into the emails. Never asked for anything. She just let her daughter have this small connection to a family that had rejected her mother and grandmother. 2 years after that first email from Grace, Brooks and I were having coffee on our porch when he said, "I want to meet her." Grace. Yes. I know it's complicated. I know it means reopening old wounds. But she's 10 now and she asks sometimes if we could meet. And I think I'd like to. Have you talked to Violet about this? I sent her an email yesterday. She said she's open to it if you're comfortable. Me. Cynthia, you're the one who went through hell because of this whole situation. If you're not okay with me having a relationship with Grace, I'll understand. I thought about the young woman I'd been, standing in my kitchen listening to my husband cry over a daughter that didn't exist. I thought about the pain and betrayal and anger. But I also thought about Grace, both the concept and the child. I think, I said slowly, that holding on to anger about the past won't change it. But choosing compassion for the future might change everything. So that's a yes? That's a yes. Let's meet Grace. 1 month later, Violet and Grace drove up from Portland. We met at a neutral location, a park where Grace could play if things got awkward. I recognized Violet immediately, though she looked different. Older, more tired, but also more at peace. And holding her hand was a beautiful little girl with dark curly hair and curious eyes. Grace, Violet said gently, this is your Uncle Brooks and his wife Cynthia. Great-great-uncle, Grace corrected with a shy smile. Hi. Hi, Grace, Brooks said, and I heard the emotion in his voice. It's really nice to finally meet you. Do you want to see my hamster? I brought her. Grace held up a small carrier. I'd love to, Brooks said. As Brooks and Grace walked toward a bench to look at the hamster, Violet and I stood in awkward silence. Thank you, she finally said. For this. For giving her this chance. She's a sweet kid, I replied neutrally. She is. And she's that way because of the choices you and Brooks made. If you'd destroyed me back then, if you'd taken everything, I don't know who I would have become. Who she would have become. You did the work, Violet. You chose to be better. Because you gave me the opportunity to choose. That's more than I deserved. We watched as Brooks showed Grace something on his phone, both of them laughing. Grace's laugh was bright and free, unburdened by the weight of the past. I'm truly sorry, Violet said quietly, for everything I did. Every lie, every manipulation. I was so angry at the world and I took it out on the wrong person. Brooks didn't deserve what I put him through. Neither did you. No, I agreed. We didn't. Can you ever forgive me? I looked at her, really looked at her. This wasn't the desperate, angry young woman who'd scammed my husband. This was a mother trying to build a better life for her child. Trying to break the cycle. I already have, I said, and realized it was true. I forgave you a long time ago. Holding on to anger was only hurting me. Violet's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. But Violet, if you ever lie to him again, if you ever try to manipulate him or use Grace to get something from him, I will end you. Do you understand? She nodded. I understand. And I won't. I promise. We spent 2 hours at the park. Grace showed us her drawings and told us about school. Brooks told her stories about her family history. The good parts, leaving out Tyler entirely. They made plans to exchange emails more frequently, maybe video chat sometimes. When it was time to go, Grace hugged Brooks tightly. Thank you for meeting me, she said. And for helping my mom and me. You're the best great-great-uncle ever. You're the best great-great-niece ever, Brooks replied, his voice thick. As we watched them drive away, Brooks took my hand. I never thought this would be how the story ended, he said. With a relationship with the child of the woman who scammed me. Life is weird like that, I agreed. Do you think we did the right thing? Letting her into our lives. I think, I said, that we chose love over hate, grace over revenge. And that's always the right thing. Brooks pulled me close. I love you. Thank you for going on this crazy journey with me. Always, I promised. And standing there in the parking lot, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's choosing to build something beautiful out of the ashes of betrayal. Sometimes it's choosing grace.